first started doing my top 10 issues lists, which was about 3 to 4 years ago, I produced my first top 10. It was for what was the old top SEMA exam, very similar to the new strategic case study. And the first exam came along after me having done my predictions, and the top issues that were in that case study were also the top issues in my top 10. Woohoo! I thought, I've got it right this time. Can I get it right next time? Next exam came round. They were very close again. And actually what I started to realise, and have realised ever since, is that the Prescene really does hint very, very closely at the types of issues that are going to come up in the exam. And you can look at the information that's given and the way that it's given and the way things are discussed. And of course, having seen many, many tens of case studies over the years, over the 10 years I've been teaching, I'm able to look at, well, that's interesting that the examiner's put that in this time, because I've never seen that before. What's the examiner thinking of there? It's those kind of things that make me think, oh, okay, I think the examiner's got that in mind to teach. I think, therefore, that what's really useful is to think about what the issues are likely to be, and from that, help you to prepare those issues. If you can prepare for the most likely issues in terms of preparing industry examples, thinking of what common answers might be, if those do happen to come up in your exam, then you'll be in a useful situation. If they don't, well, actually, you'll only know the Prescene better and probably have better knowledge of the industry as a whole. So it's only useful to you in terms of background information. But generally, you'll find a number of these top 10 issues do come up in your variant in one form or another. So let's take a look through this then. So what is the basis of my choice? As I'm looking at the information in the Prescene, it's very much the space devoted to the issue that comes up. For instance, we see a lot of space devoted to research, so that's going to be one of my top 10 issues. The examiner's not going to put a huge amount on research into the case only to find that it's not examined anywhere. Okay, that's in there for a reason. Okay, the degree of importance attached to it by the examiner. Okay, so it's just the way that it's actually phrased and what they're actually saying about certain issues. We've got various different articles at the back of the Prescene which hint at certain things that could come up. Then we've got how important it is to the business, the importance to the SWOT, how like the directors are to think that's important. And probably most focused here is my experience of past exams, typical issues. I've written lots and lots of issues for mock exams, and so I know the kind of things I'd like to write exam questions on and which ones I wouldn't. And so I bring together all of those elements to come up with that top 10, hopefully to help predict what is going to come up and help you to prepare as best as possible. So how can you prepare for these issues then? Well, the first thing you can do is to prepare key models. What I'm going to do as I go through my issues is I'm going to say, well, here's an issue. Now, if this issue did come up, here's a potential model that you could use. In fact, maybe one or two different models you could use. That can help you to use models appropriately. The examiner does not like models just being used willy-nilly without them being very appropriate to the particular issue that you're examining. Then they do gain credit. If you just mention models all the way through with no real focus on application, no real focus on what's right for the situation, you won't get marks for using those models. So therefore, I'm going to help focus you on what the key models are. Next thing you should do, of course, is help practice mock exams that cover these key issues, or even write little questions for yourself. Of course, the mock exams that we have will be a whole variety of different issues, but what we will do is we will definitely have many of these top 10 issues in our mock exams, as well as others as well. The reality is, of course, you'll go into the exam. If you do get one or two of these issues, then great, but there will be other issues in your exam that will not be on this top 10 list. You need to be prepared to be good at any issue, whatever it is. Your exam technique, perfecting that is the strongest thing. Okay. So next thing that is helpful is to find relevant real-life examples. SEMA have made it clear you do not have to have real-life examples to pass this exam. But the examiner has also made it clear that when there are real-life examples, then that's perfect. That's great. You can use them to gain extra marks. And so it's useful then to prepare sample paragraphs based on this top 10, so that should one of these issues come up, you've got something pre-prepared that you can use. You basically know the industry well, and you've thought about the kind of issues that could come up, so you've then therefore prepared what's happening there in real life, and you can raise those issues. Of course, we actually give you our own real life examples based on our top 10 in our industry pack, so of course that's another way that you can actually get those if you don't find them yourself. Okay. Some of these points there are kind of typical key points that you can raise, advantages and disadvantages of certain things. I'll cover those as we go through, and yeah, be prepared for the models. Well, we've already covered that in the first point, so that's a bit of repetition there. Okay, so let's have a look at issue 10 then. So issue 10 is academic research versus profitability. So why do I think that this is an issue that's likely to come up? Well, the first thing is that research is mentioned as a very important element as part of the mission statement. It is key to their focus. This company was set up by founders who were academics, and actually still are academics. They still write their own papers. The company put funding into papers. This is an absolutely crucial part of what they do. Remember, the mission statement itself was about encourage alternative energy use for the whole world, sustainability for the world. And for them, for the founders, research, therefore, is key. Not only that, but at the end, as well as it being in the mission, at the end, there's a whole page all about this new research conference and where they've been putting their research funding in and some of the results of recent research. The examiner hasn't got research all over this Prescene just as a coincidence. This is going to come up, absolutely guaranteed, somewhere in one of the variants. Okay, so you need to be prepared to deal with the kinds of issues that could come up there as well. Okay, part of the structure in a sense that we've got someone, Isabel, who is responsible for this area, the research area. So it's a key part of this business. So what do we think that the issues could be then? So the likely issues could be that we have got some shareholders. Difficulty at the moment is we don't know what percentage shareholders the founders have got versus other shareholders. But it could be that some other shareholders are just concerned that money is being spent on research just for the benefit of, broad benefit, not focused on what is right for profitability. And therefore, there could be a conflict between shareholders and the founders over that. Of course, the founders are the shareholders, but it's the other shareholders who might speak against it. Although we could have a founder who turns around and says, well, actually, I just don't think we should be doing all this research anymore. The time has come just to make more profits, sell this business on, or something along those lines. Okay. It could be that there's a criticism that there's too much broad focus on research. I'm particularly thinking here about our business development director, who doesn't come from a research background, saying, no, we should be putting more money into a focus on sales and getting the products out there and maybe changing and moving into new product areas and things like that. It could be that there's a competitive threat. The competitive threat means it's hard then to justify so much money going on research. Perhaps what we need to do is it could be something along the lines of, actually, we're going to go into a new product area, we need the funding, and so can we justify the research budget being so big? There's another possible question that's hinted at in the Prescene as well. It talks about what is general in academic circles is you do some research and then you make that research available to everyone. Well, should we make all our research that we've funded, that we've actually done ourselves, available to our competitors? Ooh, there's a difficult one. In fact, that could be an ethics issue. Okay, so it could be ethics, or it could be the business issue of, oh, no, we've got to be competitive ourselves. We've got to keep that information. That is the crux of the success of our business, is our own innovation, our own knowledge. We've got to retain that ourselves. So I can see a range of different angles that the examiner could go down in order to test this particular topic. Okay, so what are some key points to raise? Now, most of the points that I've got here relate to the Prescene, and actually they relate to why both research and the business can actually go hand in hand, the way the founders have been doing it so far. One thing that for me was very noticeable as I looked at that final page of research was a lot of the research that's currently being done is highly business focused. So for instance, they're doing some research. There were kind of three pieces of research that have been recently commissioned. One was to do with corrosion in metal columns. Now that's of course going to help them to advise on the towers that the wind farms are, and the wind turbines are actually on, and if they can reduce that corrosion, that's going to help provide a better service. So it's very business focused. Stakeholder lobbying of governments is absolutely focused on the PR and the legal side of the business. Okay, the research that comes out of that gives them knowledge which they can go ahead and apply. Migratory flight birds research, that could help to provide some research information they could use in their PR. In fact, there was some research that suggested that actually it wasn't as damaging as they thought it was. Only 1% of birds actually got killed by these things, which actually in itself, is that too high? Is 1% too high, or should we put these wind turbines up? But they can use that for PR purposes. So look, there's real business benefits from some of the research they're doing. It's a key competitive strength, this whole idea of innovation, particularly if they don't go sharing the results of the research. So rather than funding an external project, they do it themselves. Okay, and keep that in-house, it could be a strength. So they are very innovative. Their knowledge is key. Not only that, but often the research that does get out there, there's big PR benefits. People see that they're in the press for being knowledgeable about this subject, and then customers come to them because of that. It was a key principle from the start. It's part of their culture. It's part of their character. It's their values. It's who they are and what they stand for. So actually, if we were to abandon this as a strategy, it might mean that the whole purpose of the company is lost. We just become purely a profit-making company. And that wasn't the ethos on which the founders started this company up. It's also worth noting that the sponsorships of the projects for research projects announced at the conference, that's on the last page of the Prescene, really they're very, very small compared with revenues, you know, less than a million B dollars. Okay, so you know, that's less than 1% of the profits that were earned last year. I don't know how much other research they've got going on, maybe that they do in-house and things like that, but it doesn't appear to be an absolutely huge part of profits, and therefore arguably that's not going to make that much difference to profits anyway. You could just argue from a corporate social responsibility point of view, from an ethics point of view, it's just the right thing to do. It's about reducing global warming. That's right for the planet and all the people on the planet. We should be doing it anyway. So there's an argument that we do it for the reasons of corporate social responsibility. So there can be some very good reasons why we should carry on with the profitability. Now, of course, the other side of the argument is actually we're a business, we've got shareholders, we've got a fiduciary duty to look after shareholder needs and deliver the best return possible, and we should be doing that and not spending money on research. That would be the other side of the argument. Okay, but on balance, you know, if I'm looking at this, I think that the positives here behind their research and all the benefits we've got there on the page, for me, outweigh the negatives. So I think, therefore, if I was answering this and I was faced with this decision, I'd be making those key points on there, and from that I would be concluding, no, let's keep going with our research projects. So what kind of models could you use then? I think a really useful model is Mendelow's matrix. What you can do is you can take the founders who are, you know, obviously behind the research funding, and the opposing group, probably shareholders, and put them into Mendelow's matrix and look at the relative power of them. The minor shareholders don't really have that much power because it's the founders that have the power due to their both being the key directors on the board, but also their shareholders. Okay? We could put the world population on there, we could put universities on there, and therefore we could talk about the various different stakeholders, where they stand in Mendelow's matrix, how we should treat them, what their power is, and therefore how we should respond given that. One thing we could do is we could use Carroll's CSR pyramid. Now this is a really useful model in this case. Something that you probably earned using your P3 studies, or if not earlier studies beyond that. And the CSR pyramid says that there are 4 levels of corporate social responsibility. And in a sense here, there's 2 that are slightly, in a sense, contradictory, which relate very closely to this particular research versus profitability stake. Now, these 2 are philanthropic and economic. And actually what Carroll said was that right at the bottom, the base of the pyramid over here, that base of the pyramid is profitability, that any business, for the good of the world, for the good of social responsibility, needs to be profitable, because that's about giving people jobs, and that's a good thing to do. It supports local economy and it supports local people. If you're not profitable, you can't do anything with it. You can't actually give money away if you're not profitable. So you have to have economics in combination with philanthropic. Now, philanthropic, which is at the top of the level, philanthropic is about just giving things away, just doing it something just for the good of it, like doing research. So what's nice about this particular model is that 2 of the key levels in the pyramid are specifically related to this. And actually you can say, okay, well, we need to continue to be profitable, but that doesn't mean we can't also be philanthropic, given that that is the reason why this business was set up in the first place. Finally, you could talk about generic strategies. Remember, the generic strategies of cost leadership, differentiation and focus, well, they are very much focused on wind power, and they are expertise, they are knowledgeable, and that's what gives them a point of differentiation. And the research is supporting the knowledge position and their branding as well, creating that differentiated position. And from that point of view, you could raise Porter's generic strategies to support the argument to keep going with the research to keep that differentiation focused strategy going forward. And if you're watching the sample video that's on YouTube or the Astranti website, then I hope you enjoyed my number 10 issue. Of course, I count down from 9 down to 1 with what I think are the 9 most likely issues likely to come up, and combine that with the number 10 and then prepare for that, and you'll be in a very good position to approach the issues, to deal with them in the best way, to plan for them and to prepare for them in the best way. If you decide not to go through and get my video and my top 10 list, then I'd suggest you go through the Prescene yourself. See if you can come up with what you think are the most likely issues and start to prepare for those. Or talk with friends or colleagues that you know are doing the exam at the same time. That can be a really useful way. That kind of really encourages that kind of debate and discussion. Okay. Don't forget as well that as well as this top 10 issues list, I've got videos of my strategic analysis or the E3 models. I've got, is it 5 or 6 videos now, actually analysing the Prescene on a page-by-page basis, really breaking it down to give you a really detailed analysis of what each subsection means and how you can use that and apply that in the exam. I've also, my colleague, Alex Fitzmorgan, has done a very detailed industry analysis on the alternative power and particularly the wind industry, with loads of great industry examples you can use in the exam and to build your knowledge of what's quite a difficult industry to research. He's been working very hard to put all that together, and so yeah, do watch his video and get his industry analysis well, and do bring some of those industry examples in. And actually my best tip for you is to get industry examples that relate to the top 10 issues, because that's going to put you in a great position to be able to use that industry analysis, show your industry knowledge in the exam to get a few extra marks. Of course, all of our products, and combine that with my general videos showing you how to pass the exam, how to approach the exam, how to write issues in a way that scores marks. We've got an ethics pack to guide you on how to do ethics questions, which is a really, really important section. It's a topic that's examined, well, probably more often than any other in terms of past exams. So an ethics pack we've got on there, and an ethics video that explains to you how to do ethics questions. You can buy those out individually, or you can get that if you come on the full course. We've got mock exams. We mark those mock exams, giving you very, very detailed feedback on how to improve. Just got a note today from someone just passed their operational case study exam, which the results are coming out today as I'm recording this recording this video, and you know, they said the key difference for them was getting the marking of the mocks, because that helped them change their focus of their study to focus on what they really needed to do, because they've been going down the wrong line. And okay, that's operational case study, but the reality is having that feedback which makes big difference to whether you succeed or not. So yeah, I really recommend that. There's other stuff on the course as well, so hopefully you'll think the course is useful, come on the whole course. But if you don't, just pick and mix the things that are useful for you, buy what's necessary for you, and yeah, and work hard, work as hard as you can, and that will really is the key to success in any exam, but very much so in these case studies, particularly making sure you're practicing lots of mock exams as the key element of success. Okay, so however you decide to proceed going forward, I do wish you the best of luck in your studies and your final exam, and as a qualified accountant as you go out there into the world, hopefully earning a lot more money through being qualified, and you can go forward and build your career as an accountant.